Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone, wherever you are. Welcome to a very special episode of that LCO show, Calvin. This is the first episode post the regular season.
This is actually our first playoffs episode, right? So, the playoffs, like the five teams, it's everyone know the five teams because it was pretty much set the week before, right?
Yep.
But I'm very keen to know what everyone's predictions are because with like this week, the past week, we have seen Peace falling to Gravitas, and PGG ending the split with an 8-game win streak. And then we also have Order losing to Dire Wolves, which they are going to have a rematch in the coming week.
Yeah, look, the reason Calvin wants to know your predictions is so he can copy them because he actually is incapable
Dude,
of coming up with his own predictions. But anyway, we have actually a very packed show planned today. So we are running through our end of season awards, which I'm looking forward to. So we have regular season MVP, we have rookie of the split, and our All-LCO team. And then after that, we're going to be taking a dive into the two playoff matches that we know are happening, which are Order versus Direwolves and Peace versus PGG. So I'm going to jump straight into it, Calvin, and I'm going to get us kicked
let's
off
go.
with our votes for the regular season MVP. So Calvin and I split votes on this. We had different schools of thought.
Yep.
Calvin, why don't you introduce who you thought... Actually, sorry, before I say this, let me just say that this is the regular season MVP. So this is solely based on, the games that we saw for them in the regular season. Playoffs is not going to impact this whatsoever. Okay, we can crown a playoffs MVP later. This is just for the weeks of play that we've seen happen in Split 1.
The 21 games.
Yes,
Each
so
player played.
Calvin, would you like to introduce who you thought was the MVP for Split 1?
My MVP for Split 1 2022 LCO is Topoon!
Hey!
Yeah.
Yes. Who would have expected
goodness.
Calvin to say Topoon?
Exactly. Okay.
Do you want to give a reason as to why you gave him the
Oh.
MVP? Maybe?
Well,
Instead of just saying he is it?
Okay, so the first thing is I don't think Chiefs would win this hard, like 19-2, finish in 19-2, without Topoon sort of carrying the team when they fall behind. Because this guy, he has showcased that he is capable of winning lane super hard, and he is capable of actually bringing the team to victory through team fighting, through split pushing, and just like through doing almost everything on the map when his team wasn't performing.
Yeah, certainly. And another player, and my vote for MVP, who I think has been absolutely integral to their team success, is Balkan. So Balkan obviously had a bit of a shaky start. Had some games where he looked like he was griefing, but I think, PGG's resurgence late into this split, taking down the Chiefs and having a crazy win streak heading into playoffs is largely due to him, right? I mean, that feast or famine playstyle, I think PGG have almost perfected it now in terms of, we will trust Balkan, we will go in with him, and he has been so crucial to their success. So, look, we can't have split votes. Calvin and I talked about this before, but we are deciding that out of these two candidates, we are going to give That LCO Show regular season MVP to Topoon. So,
Yay!
I don't know if you're watching this, Topoon.
I win.
But, yes, congratulations on
But yes.
taking home that award. Now,
Maximize. I don't know, but yes.
I don't know, but yes.
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 All right, next one.
Yeah, so the next award we had is Rookie of the Split. Now, there were a lot of rookies debuting in this split. We had essentially the entire Mammoth roster. All 5 players are new. Some players on Gravitas. I don't know how many. Couldn't be bothered counting. And then on Direwolves, we saw Zoranus make his debut split as well. So, Calvin...
And Lemus from Kanga.
And Lemus, true. Yeah, good point.
Yep.
Do we count Lionel because he roll swapped? Probably not, right?
I mean, probably not, yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't count him.
Do we count
I think.
Maximize because he roll swapped to jungle for that one game where he played really well?
Who's Maximize?
Yeah, okay. Awesome. So, my vote, I'll start off with my vote for the first time. I wasn't really convinced by anyone on Gravitas or Mammoth because I think that, they weren't playing to the level where there was like, okay, I'll say Rhea Fury was someone who I was considering, but he only had like 3 good games this entire split. And that's not to say he's bad. That's not to say he's not a good player. It's just because, when you're on a team like Mammoth, it's really hard to show your talent to the best of your ability. So wasn't going to go with him. I've decided to go for someone who actually is still in playoffs, and that is Zarnus. So he's been a bit of the unsung hero of Direwolves, but I think he's had some really convincing games on the Gragas, on the Camille. He's shown that he can play, both carry and the sort of weak side style when his team needs him to. So I think he's very versatile for a rookie, and I'm excited to see his development as the year goes on.
Yeah, and I do think Zoranis actually... No, he didn't have the best start, I believe. Like, he had, like, one really good game, I think, on Vladimir at the beginning of the split. And then he kind of slumped a little bit. But towards, like, the end, like, towards the middle and the end of the split, the guy is just playing better and better, right? And couple it with, Kyosei and Gudo's performance and also the bot lane. And I think that was what propelled Direwolves into that 5th place spot in the playoffs. So yeah, I do think that Zoranis deserves a lot of credit. However, I do have another candidate for Rookie of the Split. And for me, that is... Come on, you know that. And for me, that is the Jung. Now... Ooh. He does... This guy... Where are you? Wherever you are, but this guy doesn't seem surprised. But,
I have to act surprised, Calvin. It's for content, okay? I'm channeling what our viewers are thinking right now. Like, what? You picked Daejeon? The team that went fucking 3-18? Huh? Anyway, go on.
Okay, it might seem like an odd choice here because I did pick a person, like a player from the 8th place team, right? 3-18 from Gravitas. But I do think that the Jung showed a lot of promise throughout this entire split. Now, I was debating between him and Refuri because of their individual performance, but I do think that De Jong had a way higher impact in Gravitas, like in Gravitas roster, compared to Refuri, because like Refuri, obviously everyone remembers him for that one Trinity game where he solo killed what's his name, Yuri, like I don't know, 5 times, 6 times, something like that.
Yeah.
And everyone remembered him for that game. However, I think Refuri didn't live up to everyone's expectation after that. Like, I think as week goes by, the guy has been performing like more and more mediocre. Whereas De Jong, I think while he had some inting games, I remember like a couple games where he was on like Victor or something where he just completely inted. But I think every Gravitas win or like every game where Gravitas looked close, it was coming from De Jong actually getting fed or De Jong actually making an impact on the map. And this guy genuinely reminds me a lot about Kyosei last year. Okay. And this guy seems sleepy.
I am sleepy, yes.
And so like I do think that the Jung have a lot of potential going into next split, going into next year, and I think rewarding him, my rookie of the split, it kind of serves as like a a compliment.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, Calvin, you are best mates with Gravitas' owner, so it does make sense to give it to a Gravitas player. The reason
he's been waiting for this.
The reason I'm not a fan of Daejeon, I think he's just been super inconsistent this split. Like you mentioned it, I saw. You remember the one game where he played Victor into Kyosei Syndra, and
I think everyone remember that game.
He's like 4 deaths in the first 6 minutes of the game, and I'm just like, okay. Like yes, he had high points, but he also had some really low points. So I think, look, overall, I think Zoranis played better, but we have to decide, Calvin. So have I convinced you with my argument, or are you still on the Daejeon hype train?
Yeah, no, I agree that overall Zoranis is a better player.
Yes! Okay, that's 1-1. That is 1-1.
Okay, it's 1-1.
For the MVP award. I don't know why we're taking credit for these MVP awards. We're meant to be celebrating the players. We're meant to be celebrating the players with this.
No, it's a competition, right? It's a competition.
It is. Okay, now on to probably the hardest thing that we had to do coming into the show, which was decide on an all-LCO team. This was really difficult because there are just so many players in certain roles that I think could contend for this.
I think there's a few factors, right? Like the first thing being there are a lot of players that actually performed really well throughout the split. But then at the same time, a lot of the top players from each role had ups and downs throughout the split.
Yeah.
Right? That is what makes the All-LCO team so hard to choose.
Certainly, and I think that, look, I tried to do mine on the basis of consistency. I think, obviously, there will be some players in here who weren't playing the best all the time, but I think, like, right now, if you took them, they would probably make one of the best teams. So, without further ado, I'm going to jump into mine. Calvin and I both agreed on this top jungle, which is probably unsurprising. I think a lot of people would put it the same. So, top is Topoon, and jungle is Balkan. Now, for mid lane, people are going to probably meme me about this, because even the fucking person that I put for this memes me about it. But I said that the all-pro LCO mid should be Kiyose this split. Now, I've been a bit of a... Dude, shut up. I've been a bit of a Kiyose fan all split. I think he has been really, really impressive mechanically. And he's just gotten to show like his ability to take over games. And I mean, his Syndra is known for a reason. So I think this guy... He's still pretty young.
I'm so good. Okay, I just have to interrupt you because like it's so funny because like I also wanted to see Kiyose Syndra, but the guy never picked it. The guy never picked Syndra after that one good game.
Syndra's like a really hard champion to pick in the meta right now, though.
I mean, I agree, but like he had so many counter pick options, right? But anyway, it's just my little wish. You know, I want to see Kiyose Syndra.
We might see it in playoffs. Who knows? Anyway. That is my take for mid lane. For AD carry, again, Calvin and I agreed on this. We decided that it would be Raze. Now, it was really hard to sort of compare AD carries because I don't think there's any role that's impacted as much in terms of whether you're winning or losing as AD carry, right? Like, if you are an AD carry, maybe support, actually. Maybe support, you look like a complete griefer if your team's losing, but... For AD carry, it's very hard to get an individual metric because, you know, everyone's going to have crazy CS. Everyone's going to have crazy damage numbers. That's just how AD carry works. So, I just thought Raze was the most standout to me. Again, at the start of the split, definitely didn't look like his old form, but it only took him a couple weeks to get back into the perfect player stereotype that we know him for. And last but not least, support. Now, this was the hardest role. This was the hardest role for me, and I think for you too, Calvin, to say that there's a clear standout player. Because to be frank, I don't think there was one player who I can just be like, yeah, this guy is by far the best in the league. If you asked me mid-season, I would have 100% said Beats. Would have said this guy, you know, no question about it. Beats and Cheon just gapping every single bot lane. They're stomping. But now that's not really the case, right? I mean, Peace have had some interesting couple weeks. So I decided to give it to Corporal. No order bias here. I just think Corporal has been an extremely consistent, engaged player, and Calvin's shaking his head at me.
Do you want to showcase your light, right
it's
behind
not
you?
because of this
It's
neon
not because
sign
of order, right?
that I was sent.
This way. Where are you, by the way? Which way?
You could just see.
Which way should I point?
That way. The way you're pointing
way.
right now. Yes. It's not because of this sign. It's because I think Corporal has actually deserved it. And he's played pretty consistently. He has had some inting games, but that's just the nature of support when you are playing engaged champions. If it's not working, you're going to look like a griefer. So, anyway, that's mine. Topoon, Balkan, Kiyose, Raze, Corporal. Calvin, tell me where you decided to go differently for yours.
Now, Max has said it. You know, my top jungle and AD picks are completely the same. I think Topoon, Balkan by far the best top and jungler respectively in the role. I think Balkan had more like good games than Arthur. Like Arthur definitely got back into form towards the end of the split.
Yeah.
However, Balkan was just way more stable, right, throughout the entire split. Topoon, same thing. I think we talked about Thean a little bit. You know, being a potential contender for the All-LCO team in top lane. However, Topoon, like the guy, like I said, with the regular season MVP, the guy just solo kills people, the guy plays macro correctly, the guy impacts the team, impacts the game so much that, you know, the guy fully deserves to be on the All-LCO team.
Yeah.
Now, the difference I have is in mid lane and support. For mid lane, I have Tally. Now, Yeah, shut up, Max. Now, I know that throughout this entire split, I have bashed on Tally quite a few times, right? You know, I kept saying that, all right, the guy is 100 HP at level 2 for the first few weeks, right? And
Calvin sent him hate letters in the mail. He told him how bad he was to the Chiefs house.
uh-oh, uh-oh. But yeah, but the thing is, Tally at the end impressed me. Like the guy really
Yeah.
put in the work and improved throughout the split. Like I think week after week, you're able to see his improvements, right? Like the first couple of weeks, the guy clearly is still struggling to adapt to mid lane, although he played mid lane last split, right? He obviously tried to move back to top lane. I mean, as far as what I've heard in the off season, you know, the guy tried to move back to top lane, but throughout the split, he's just becoming a better and better mid laner. And towards the end, I think he is one of, if not the best mid laner in the league. And for support, I have Beats. Now, Max said it, right? For the first half of the split, I think Beats is by far the best support in the league.
Yeah.
Obviously not like carrier level in LCK, right? Like, you know, not that good, but he is still probably the best support in the league. And towards the end, I'm gonna say that Beats is still probably top 2, top 3 support in the league. And the P's performance affected his own performance a bit, or like maybe vice versa. Like we don't really know, right? But at the end, I think considering the entire split's performance, I would say that Beats is still the best support in the league and deserves to be in the All-LCO team.
Well, very nice. And it has nothing to do, guys, with Calvin having coached him for the last 2 years. Absolutely nothing.
Come on.
His AD
I've witnessed
carry.
this guy. I've witnessed this guy switching from mid lane to top lane and then filling jungle for a game because Prayers couldn't make it because of some I think PC issues or something, and then roll swapping to support. No, definitely no bias there. All right,
No
guys?
bias. No bias. But anyway, those are our awards. I'm going to leave the LCO team as a split vote. I think it's close enough. We have our points of differences. So congratulations to everyone who was nominated. You're doing great. Keep it up. But that brings us to something I'm actually excited to do. And it's have a pretty in-depth discussion about our playoffs games. Because
Oh, this is going to be a long episode, isn't it?
I don't think it will be. We've only been going for about 18 minutes now, so
Really?
I don't think it's too bad.
Well,
So both of these series I think have the potential to be really, really close. The first one we talk about, Order versus Direwolves, I think is actually going to be one of the closest series in all of the playoffs until PGG, meet Chiefs again. So let's talk about that, Calvin, because
Yep.
the last time Order matched up against Direwolves, I was playing, and that didn't go well. So we lost the game. And the time before that, Order also lost. So the last 2 games, Direwolves have won. But since Order, finished on top of the standings, finished 11-10 compared to Direwolves who are 10-11, Order is going to get side selection going into the game.
yeah, and one thing that I want to highlight, right, is I'm just gonna be like I'm just gonna bring up some statistics here. So both Order and Direwolves have this very interesting thing where they highly prefer red side games. I think Order. So knowing the scheduling, I believe Order picked 9 red side games, where and Direwolves picked 7 red side games. And funnily though, both Order and Direwolves have a significantly higher win rate on blue side. So one thing for me to look at with side selection is whether Order will pick red side or blue side, because if you think about Order's roster, right? Like if they pick red side, they get a lot of counter picks, and you're essentially enabling Kevy to pick niche champions like Karthus, like Evelyn, etc., etc. Or you can let Kisei and Puma pick, unorthodox champions as well, and potentially that leaves a lot of breathing room for Order to plan out drafting. But then if you look at statistics, right, Order's blue side win rate is 56% compared to red side 50%. Dial's blue side win rate is 60% compared to red side 36%.
Ooh.
So like, would you take that into consideration?
Oh, Yeah,
Ugh.
take that, guys. Don't pick fucking red side. Calvin will tell you your shit. Um, but no, I think it's quite interesting. In terms of Order's not really a team that uses red side in how it's traditionally used, right?
Yes.
Like they don't really use red side to make sure they have a really winning top that they can play to
5p
make
80
sure they
carry.
can carry a top. Yeah, they will 5p their 80 carry. They'll have some weird flex that they hold, and it's going to be interesting to see, whether they decide to change that. I know Biopanther's been playing a lot of carries in solo queue. He's, climbing really high. I think he's top 5. Definitely top 10 in solo queue right now. So, been putting in a lot of work. So, it's going to be interesting to see, whether Order stick to that formula of, okay, we're going to 4P Scion here. Just good luck in whatever matchup you have. Just try to survive, or whether they're going to say, look, we're gonna take this and we're gonna skill check you in the top lane because Zoranus is a rookie, right? Compared to Biopanther who's been playing forever, right? So there is a really big experience gap there, and I'm wondering if that's something that they're going to exploit. I put the matchup to watch for this game as the mid jungle. We talk about this every single Direwolves game. You guys know how it is already. Gudo and Kiyose, that's who Direwolves live and die by. Yeah, it's the script.
It's the script.
And I want to see Kisei and Kevi really level up in this playoffs, right? Because they, to be completely honest, they haven't reached the ceiling or the potential that I think we both had them at the start of the season, right, Calvin? Like, I thought we saw this team heading into the start of the season and we thought this would be the best mid-jungle team in the league, right? Both extremely mechanically proficient players, both able to play a variety of carry and utility champions, and they really haven't reached that yet for me. So I think having this test, in a best of 5 where the champion pools are going to be tested to be able to assert your dominance as the players who they really are, Calvin.
Yeah, I mean, for both sides, right? Like for Order and Direwolves alike, I think the mid jungle have shown, like, going into the split, we expect that Kevi Kisei and Kiyose Gudo, like, these are really damn strong mid jungle duos in the region locally, right? And we do expect them to shine a lot. And on obviously Order, like that, they didn't really show a lot of mid jungle throughout the split, right? Like a lot of the games come from either Kevi being super fed or Puma absolutely carrying every single team fight, right?
Yeah.
And on Direwolves, I do think that Gudo and Kiyose had some really pop-off moments, but they haven't shown us that their ceiling working together, like the ceiling that they've shown last year. And I think going into this week, Order versus Direwolves, like if both teams are able to get their mid jungle online and just, at that peak performance, it's going to be a banger series.
Yeah, it certainly is. So I want to go through top to bottom and I want to break down where you think the points of strength are. So for me, one of the points of strength I think for Order is their bot lane in this series. I think that Frost and Shinky, I'm assuming that's Shinky's going to be playing this series just because he has been playing the last couple of weeks. I think Puma and Corporal do have the potential to win this lane, to take over the game from bot lane. So I think that is a point of strength that Order can be looking to exploit, right? We talked about 5 picking your 80 carry. I mean, certainly not good in a lot of drafts, but if you are planning to really play through bot lane, I mean, hey, it could work.
Yep. And yeah, I mean, I do think that Order strength comes from the imbalance in bot lane, right? I do think that if you look at mid jungle right now, I'm going to say it's fairly 50-50. And if you look at Order versus Direwolves bot lane, it's probably something, pushing towards the 70-30 mark, right? And it's Order favor. And for me, I think that Direwolves can also play towards, alternatively, the top side, right? Like, Biopanther hasn't really shown any carry champions. I mean, the last week he showed he can play Tryndamere, but that game I think he lost, right? That was the game against Direwolves, if I remember correctly.
I mean, that was a shit jungler for Order, so just blame it on that.
It was shit.
Go to the next one.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know why Kevi suggested this jungler, but, the guy was trash.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Biopanther has shown that, he could potentially play carry champions, but, statistically, and you look at, like, all the past games, it's more than likely that Biopanther is just going to stick to tanks, Ornn, Scion, Gragas, etc., etc.
Not Ornn.
And
Ornn is the most awful
maybe not Ornn.
champion
Yeah, the
in
champion sucks
the
now.
fucking game right now.
It's just like when you talk about tanks, right? You just immediately think of Ornn. I
You
don't
do.
really know.
It is
but,
like the most
you do, right?
tank champion. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's even tankier than Mundo. Let's just put it that way. But then actually talking about Mundo, like it's a champion that Panther plays. You know, maybe we'll see it. I don't know. But
Yeah, man. He also
like,
played Shyvana top in season 2. I think we will see it in this
God.
playoffs for sure.
Anyway, but no. So like, if you look at Dao's top lane Zeranis, right? Like the guy has played Vladimir, for example, and
Yeah.
especially into Gragas, right? So if Biopanther, if Order blind picks Gragas again, we might see this niche pick coming out again and just completely dominate the league.
Well, what I think is Zoranus is a really weird champion pool to draft against, right? Like you said it,
Yeah.
he plays Vladimir, he plays Vayne, he plays a lot of these
Oh
carries.
yeah, the Vayne game.
He plays a lot of these carries that aren't that you wouldn't traditionally think about, right? Like you'd think your normal answers into something like a Gragas, okay, a Jace, a Graves, you know, something like that. But then like you can't really prepare for a Vayne or Vladimir. It's just such a troll ban to do because it's just the chance of it happening is so low. So I think
You're also banning Puma's Vayne.
yeah, true. Don't want to do that. But Zoranus is a player who I think can certainly exploit the champion pool. You know, if Bio does pick tanks, will we see something different? I don't know. I'm not at the leisure to say anything.
It screams.
I certainly will not be licking scrims. Anyway, that brings us to series predictions. How I think this series is gonna go. So, Calvin, you are continuing the tradition of letting Shinky do your predictions for you, even for this. So why
What
don't
do
you
you
tell
mean?
us? Why don't you
Okay,
tell us
I-
who you think's gonna win and what the series score is gonna be?
All right. Disclaimer: I did not ask anyone for predictions. All right, this is my pure.
I
this is
certainly didn't ask anyone to do my predictions for me this game.
I hate this guy. So my prediction is 3-1 in favor of Dire Wolves.
Calvin, that is an outrageous claim. Why do you think it's going to be 3-1 in favor of Direwolves?
This guy sounds so sarcastic, man. Okay, so I think that Direwolf as a team feels a lot more cohesive, and Order, like the current roster, kind of reminds me of when I coached Order last year, where you're probably going to go into playoffs with a couple drafts in mind, and once those drafts get banned out, then Order reverts to this solo queue play style where they kind of struggle to find their own identity, right? They kind of struggle to find objectives to play for in game, and that has shown, like they've shown that this is the case in the last few weeks of LCO, right? And I feel like Direwolves, as a team being more cohesive, they're able to go in with a more solid plan, and they will be able to take out Order in a pretty convincing fashion.
Very interesting. So I've gone for the other end of the board. I said it's going to be a 3-2 for Order.
Order maximize.
I think that these teams are actually really close in terms of comparative skill right now that they've shown on stage. So I think it's going to be a very tense series. I certainly would not expect a 3-0. That being said, now that I've said that, it's probably going to go 3-0.
It's cursed,
But
isn't it?
I've said 3-2. Look, I ultimately think Order will take it. I think that whilst Direwolves have shown that they've got some certain things that they can pull out, like the Casio, the Kyo's looked really great on. Like the Jinx drafts they had where there's just protect the Jinx comp with the Karma mid. I think that they don't necessarily have the same depth as a team like Order. I think Order, in terms of experience, in terms of veterancy, in terms of how much they've prepared or how much they, the different types of drafts that they're going to be coming into today with. I just think that their experience. Can you stop smiling, man? I can't talk. You're putting so much pressure on me, man.
I'm just thinking Order maximize, man. Order maximize.
Oh my god. Okay, no, this is actually unbiased. It's probably gonna happen later in the playoffs. I'm not predicting Order just because I think, I am part of Order. I would never do that. I'm not gonna do that because I want to be as serious and give you guys as good analysis as I think that I can. So I genuinely think this series will be a 3-2 Order. That being said, if Order does manage to level up, if they do manage to find their form, I think this series could be a blowout in the same vein. So, yeah, I think this series will be extremely, extremely close. I'm really looking forward to watching it. maybe even casting. Sorry, no. But anyway, on to our next series of the day, which is Peace versus PGG. Now, Peace do have side selection, even though both teams ended on the same record. And I have put the matchup to watch for this game as the bot lane.
Yep. I also agree that bot lane is the matchup to watch because it is probably the matchup that will make or break the series, in my opinion. Because both Peace and PGG so far, right, their mid jungle has been focused on enabling the team to perform, right? Like, obviously, Balkan, like, they sort of help the team in different ways, right? Like, RP and Lisa, they enable the team through getting their side lanes ahead, right? Like, they're very dynamic, they move around the map. Their map presence is probably insanely high. Whereas Balkan and Yuri, if you look at those two players, they enable the team through being super aggressive, right? You will see Yuri trying to salvage lost fights. You will see Balkan just, diving into the enemy jungle, diving enemy turrets, and trying to get himself a lead, trying to get map pressure. And both these teams, at the end of the day, though, do play around their bot lane a lot, right? Like Praetor had this insanely high CS game in the last week of LCO.
13.8, I think, CS per minute.
I think that was, it was like almost 14 CS per minute. That was pretty insane, right? It was insane, it was impressive, and it is actually a very scary thing to think about, right? Like, if you do not target Pentanet's bot lane, Praetor is going to farm up a storm.
He had 315 CS in 22 minutes.
My god.
That is
I've never seen people do that.
That's a Doinby hack.
So
that is an
long.
absolute Doinby hack. One interesting thing to note, I think, about PGG as well, is their win rate on blue and red side is the exact same. They're the exact same win rate on both blue side and red side. And in terms of picking, they have also picked blue side and red side the exact same amount of times.
That is true.
So this team is a very consistent team. They haven't really shown any bias team-wise. However, when teams play against them, they have been blue side 2 times. And the other 9 times, the enemy team has picked red side. Right? So teams really want red side versus PGG, maybe to get some solo encounter, maybe to try to shut them down there. But I think it's just very interesting to note that there's such a even team on both sides. You don't really see a team have, the exact same pick rate for both sides and the exact same win rate for both sides either. So speaks a lot to their consistency, which we hadn't really painted PGG as a team that's this consistent.
Consistent, right?
But, you look at the stats and stats don't lie.
Yep, 100%. And, and on P side, right, they have a very much a red side favor, and they do win a lot more on not like a lot more, but like they do win more on red side. They have a 75% win rate on red side compared to a 67% on blue side, and a lot of those losses are from Gravitas, so, I'm just going to disregard it.
Yeah, look, I think red side, it makes sense with Peace. Like, I think their identity is really based around, getting a side lane to carry, whether that be TN or whether that be Cheon and Beats. So I think it makes sense to save counterpick for those lanes, and we can see it in the win rate, right? Like you said, we can't discount, I guess, the Gravitas wins, but I think it is still pretty interesting that there's almost a 10% increase in win rate when you go to red side. So, look, Peace do have side selection coming in, so we could potentially see a game 1 red side being picked up. I think what's interesting as well is Winter is a player who, very, very mechanically proficient, but he normally gets left on an island for like 80% of the games, right?
Yeah.
And I think that this is something that coming into this series, TN and the rest of Peace are going to be looking to exploit, right? I mean, we know TN is probably one of the most proficient Jace players, and he's just willing to pick it in a lot of spots, right? He's willing to pick that Jace, willing to pick that Camille. And versus Winterer, obviously I'm 100% not saying that he can't play these carries, but, just the way that drafts have panned out for the side of PGG, he is normally a weak side player. So it's going to be interesting to see, what these teams' priorities are when they're coming into this playoff situation.
100%. And that leaves us to the series prediction. So I think this time Max and I finally are on the same page.
Are we, Calvin? Because I remember you putting a different number there, and then right before we started the show, you said, I'm going to change this to copy
Look,
what Max is saying. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to open that. Anyone who's watching on YouTube, apologies. I tried to get up my predictions, but the predictions are, both of us predicted a 3-0 for the side of PGG. Calvin, why have you made this decision? And you can't just say because Max did it.
I don't know what to say then. Nah, jokes. So I think the main reason is the fact that PGG actually concluded the last round robin undefeated. They're currently on an 8-game win streak, meaning they've won the last round robin plus 1 game.
The last 8 games.
And
that's what an 8 win streak.
you.
That's what an 8 win streak means.
Okay, Max. Okay, Max. Okay. Now, I think in order to stop Pentinet's momentum, it requires a team that is super well developed, like Chiefs, for example. And Peace right now doesn't seem to be that team.
Yeah.
Simply put, you just look at the last 2 to 3 weeks' performance, and you're just gonna say like Peace doesn't look like a second place team. They look more like a 4th place, even 5th place team.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think your point about discipline is a really good one. I think that with the way that PGG approach games and how explosive they are, you really have to be very controlled and take team fights very cautiously because, PGG are the type of team that once they're ahead, they are just going to put their foot on the gas and just compete like ram fights whenever they can. So you brought up a good point. I mean, Chiefs didn't even manage to beat PGG in that best of 1. So they are on an 8-win streak, the biggest out of any team by far heading into playoffs. And I think that given current forms, like whilst their records are very even, I mean, they're the exact same, right? They're both 15 and 6. That's how they ended the split. I think that PGG have just looked so much better across the board, really, and as a team.
Yeah. And, for Peace, it's not like doom and gloom for them, right, Max? I think for Peace, they can sort of win if they are able to find their old form. But I don't know. Like, what do you think what do you think Peace needs to do in order to win the game, like to win the series against PGG? Because they only showed one play style that nets them success.
Yeah, right? I mean, I think that's just what they need to do, right? I think if you want to win this series as Peace, you're permanently picking Rise, you're permanently picking any champion that can push mid and move with Lisa, because I think that is when Peace have looked their best, when they've had this complete dominance of the map and being able to run it. I think if you do go into team fights even, it's probably going to end up badly. I think PGG have just shown that they're too good at executing these fights that you wouldn't really want to go in, certainly not when you're behind, and even when you're even, it looks very scary. So I'd say the biggest thing from Peace, they can win, right? They can. I think it's so unlikely that they're going to win 3 games. I just don't think they've looked disciplined enough. I don't think they've looked cohesive enough to be able to pull that out. I think they could potentially take a win, off the back of a monstrous performance from Lisa or TN. But yeah, overall, I'm sticking with the 3-0. I'm confident the PGG are going to win, and I think so are you.
3-0.
Yeah, absolutely. So, actually, that brings us to the end of this episode. I've had a lot of fun. I think this episode, I love giving awards to players. Even though they're actually not real awards, and we don't actually give them anything, we just say that they won the award. So congratulations to everyone.
It is the Maximize, what's his surname again? Yaramenko, right?
Yaramenko, yes.
It's a Maximize Yaramenko award of
awesomeness.
Absolutely nothing. Awesomeness.
Yeah. But no, thank you guys, and from us here, thank you guys for tuning in for the regular split. We've had a lot of fun. We know it's not the final product of the podcast. We know that there's stuff that we can be doing better, but thank you for tuning on. Thank you for tuning into this journey. And plenty more to come. We've got some heaps of playoffs.
This is not the end. The guy's making it sound like it's the last episode, but it's not. All right.
It is the last episode for the regular season. Okay, we're moving into playoffs. Okay. So we're done the regular season, and thank you guys, for supporting us through this journey. And we are super hyped for these games. I think all these series. I'm so looking forward to a best of 5. I think there's going to be a really handsome cast up for the Peace vs PGG series, but don't tell anyone I said that. And anyway, yeah, we will see you guys back again next week to break down all these series and look at the week ahead. So see you then.
Bye bye.